Okay, so we're back with Pat Sheahan here today for his weekly press conference. Pat Sheahan, excuse me. And we've got two women's rugby players here with us, as well as Beth Bartz is going to join us later. But Pat, let's get right down to it. McMaster this week. We are going back to them from a familiar territory. There was a playoff game in 2006. We did the same thing. We were 6 seed and they were 3 seed. Talk a little bit about what happened that year and maybe how we're going to repeat that.
Well, I think that what happened in that game there in 2006 is we went down there and played a very good football game. And I'm not sure whether we caught them by surprise or not, but they were still a very good football team in 2006. We surprised them and were able to take the game. So this is obviously a new year. All the faces have changed, you know. So there's not too many other parallels you can draw except the historical factor, because we only have I guess we have a couple of guys who were playing in that game who remember. The fact of the matter is that how many times in your life do you get a chance to to do things over again? Oftentimes in competitive sport, you get your one crack at a team, you win or you lose, and then you move on. In this case here, we have a second chance. You go back and play a team for a second time in the season. Obviously, if you're going to beat them, the best time to beat them is the second time you play them. And if you lose to them twice, then what you do is just zip it, get on the bus, go home. Because I think if a team beats you twice, there's really no argument.
Okay, on that, we'll take questions from the floor.
Yet these are not the same two teams that met in the first game of the season.
No, I suppose not. I mean, we've done a thorough analysis on the last game that we played against them, and we probably had about 4 or 5 plays were the difference in a big victory for us. One play, may have been the difference between winning and losing. There was a plethora of possibilities to pick from that night. But in all fairness to our opponent, they're not the same either. I mean, they've got big play capacity. They can throw the football well. They move around pretty well on defense. They are young in the secondary. Like us, they're young in the secondary, so some things happen back there that are sometimes unplanned. So it should be a good football game. The interesting thing about it, that in a sudden death game, our guys have already gone through the drill once, gone down to that part of the country, stayed in the hotel, showed up at the stadium. We know exactly what the locker room is like. We know what to expect on the field. This is a deja vu. So I don't believe that any of those details that can sometimes be a little bit unsettling at times, will be a factor. I think it's just going to be a football game. We know what the field is like. So just anxious to get at it.
Can you talk a bit about Sheahan's development as a quarterback this season? How you think he started from the beginning of the season to now?
Well, I think he's on schedule. I really do. I think that quarterback is, there are many demands on the quarterback that you don't have at other positions. And, I think to be able to step in and manage a lot of these variables are a significant challenge. And I think that early in the season, he struggled a little bit. However, his last game against McMaster, he actually played quite well. He played very, very well against Windsor. And I think everybody thought that after those 2 weeks that his performance would just take off and go through the roof. As he was confronted with new situations to deal with, he had to learn what to do. And so by the time you get to this point in the season, he's seen everything. He's been beaten up a little bit emotionally, thanks to some of you people. But he also has had a chance to learn. I'm afraid that at that position, there's no substitute for experience. So he's a little bit more comfortable in his shoes at this time in the season. And he played very well last week. He played very well on all of the non-playoff teams, but as we're all painfully aware, we didn't beat anybody else we didn't beat any of the playoff teams yet this year. So now it's time to, go against stronger opponents, play more poised, and play better.
See both running backs this week, what do you say? Terry and Wilford.
Why did they get to find out?
They're going to address it these days. So.
We haven't submitted our 50 fine yet, but could be there.
The fact it's been a season of adversity, does that make you stronger as you head into the playoffs? Or how do you see that mentally? You got to be tougher, I would think.
Yeah, hey, listen, we've got, you know, we've had a brush with reality on a number of occasions. You know, I know that, you know, our fans, they want us to be better. Sometimes maybe we coaches thought we were going to be better, but in reality, when you sit there and you look at it, you know, we needed some time. We needed some patience. Adversity is part of every season. We had adversity even in the championship season. It's not whether or not you're going to have adversity, it's, you know, it's how you deal with it. You've got new players and new roles. You've got guys now who are sort of being your second rung guys, you know, contributors, but not necessarily the main guys. Now they have to move up and be the main guys. That's a new role for them. And then, of course, then your second row guys are guys that maybe didn't get much playing experience of any kind. So they are in new roles also. And I include not just offense and defense, but special teams, that kind of thing. So I think that, you know, being philosophical, as I look back on this season, although everybody was sort of, there were even some reverberations of repeat and all the rest of it, you know, that doesn't happen very often, and it doesn't happen for the reasons stated, is that it's very, very difficult to, you know, lose great players in 1 year and then replace them in a 12-month period with other guys who have not ever, you know, played at that level kind of thing. So I think the adversity that we faced is just a part of the growth that was needed to, you know, to develop the team. And now the hope is that, you know, you've faced enough adversity so that when the next challenge comes in a do or die situation, you can meet it head on and deliver.
What would you say the strengths of Matt Gard?
Well, the quarterback, Quinlan, has, you know, he's become a player. There's no question about that. He's a difference maker. I think that's what you want from your quarterback. He's a difference maker. When the chips are down, he can give you that big throw on second and long, you know, make up the difference. You know, there's going to be mistakes in every football game. Typically, the quarterback can be the one filter. The guy sort of, well, okay, we missed 3 blocks, we fumbled the football, but, you know, then bang, you know, he makes the 28-yard strike when you really need it. And I mean when you need it. That's what it's great. But, you know, I recall his development and performance, too. I mean, everybody thought that he was going to step up and be a world beater last year. And he played well at times, played well as a second-year player. But when crunch time came, you know, he was outmatched. And he's better this year. They've got a big offensive line. They've got 2 experienced backs. Their receiving core is good. I think the injury to Carpina, I think, could be significant at this time of year. He kicked very well against us in the home opener down there. And he's a very talented guy. He's got a broken leg as a result of the Guelph game, so they brought their kicker back from last year. You know, he's a solid performer. I think that Carpina is superior. So this is the time of year where you don't necessarily want to have to, you know, suffer any lack of performance there. Defensively, they're good on the front. They probably have one of the top defensive performers in the league at number 54, Chimluski. He's one of the better. He'd be one of the top 3 linebackers in the league that we have faced. They had a few injuries on the defensive line, but they're still pretty solid. They're big and tough. All those kids down there from the Horseshoe, you know, they're typical tough kids there. They're athletic in the secondary, but they're also young. They've got a couple of freshmen that are starting. The one kid, Dix, from Justin Chapdelain's high school, actually. He's right out of grade 12 in D.C., and then so is the other kid, Ben Fresca, is a local Hamilton kid, but he's a first-year kid. So usually where you've got first-year kids, you're going to get some mistakes. And, you know, so that's pretty much how they stack up.
Biggest postseason key, is it turnovers?
Always. I think in every game it's turnovers, but I'm going to make a sort of very general comment for us. I think it's really just to play to our potential and maintain that. You know, at times, and I've talked to a number of coaches in the league, you know, at times, people evaluate our team, and they find us a very, very, you know, fearsome team to line up against, okay? We get it going for 15, 18, 20 minutes where we take control of the ball game, and we can do it, play with anybody, okay? I think we proved that at times. The whole idea is to manage adversity. How do you deal with the explosions? Explosions are not welcome events in sporting games, but you know, they're going to happen, and then you have to deal with them. You just don't want to have one, then another, then another, then another. You know, we've seen that happen. So to be able to, an experience, just to be able to settle down, realize that, okay, something bad has just happened, let's follow it up with by making a play or something good, not just unravel, okay, and let the game become unmanageable. I think if we do that, I mean, we're going to be in every game for the rest of the way.
With special teams, speaking of explosion, I mean, that first game, that was arguably the biggest play when they returned it there. How much can you practice that throughout the year? And can you get better at it?
Well, I think you do, but you also get better in games. It's you know, regardless, you try and practice a simulation, and you know, you're going to go hard in practice, but you're never going to go as hard as you would all out or the way your opponent is going to play you. So the thing is to fix what you can in practice, and then your performance at the end is the accumulation of all your game reps as well. So it's at this point in the year, we're going into our 9th game. All right, and we got to be able to do some things right. And explosion plays in the kicking game are things that we must contain. Okay. We don't have the Jimmy Allen type returner, okay, but you know, we should be able to catch the ball, hold on to it, you know, maybe get the occasional turnover or that kind of thing. We should be able to do those things, you know, and we're going to need to as we go down the stretch here.
Anything else? Okay, that concludes the official portion of today's media conference. Again, we have members of the women's rugby team here today, and they are playing in the OUA Championship at Kingston Field, 12 p.m. on Saturday, and they're playing against Gaels. All right, thank you, Pat.
Good luck to the rugby team.